Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Counsel Barton?
Present.
Present Counsel Chakutis? Present Counsel Calucci? Absent. Counsel Field?
Present.
Present Counsel Hogan?
Present.
Present Counsel LaPierre?
Present.
Present Counsel Lozey?
Present.
Present Counsel Net?
Present.
Present Counsel Stabbard?
Present.
Present Counsel Walsh?
Present.
Present Counsel Seer?
Present.
Before we start, when you come up to speak to the mic, could you give your name and address, please? Thank you. Councilor Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. If I could have someone from Lynn Fire come up to the podium to answer some questions.
You want the chief? You want somebody from EMS?
Whoever's more comfortable with EMS.
EMS. Captain Zukas.
Thank you, Captain Zukas. The council has received, and the city received, an email just over a month ago from Union Hospital explaining that they had decided to close the emergency room at Union Hospital ahead of what their expected schedule of 2020 was. It was originally, I believe, October of 2020, then moved up to spring of 2020, and now we're being told that it's going to be closing in the fall of 2019 and changing over to urgent care. Can you explain what you've been notified of from partners in North Shore Medical Center?
And I called them today just to verify this information. I get the same information you received. So on November 3rd, Union Hospital in Lynn, the emergency room is going to close. And then the new emergency room in Salem is going to open that same day. The next day, on the 4th, they're going to turn the current ER at Union Hospital into an urgent care. And the other information we have is the new building that we all see being built on Linfield Street, that they plan to open up in May of 2020. And I guess at that time, then the urgent care at Union Hospital will close, and whatever negotiations with the city and the Partners Healthcare, what's going to happen to that current Union Hospital will be ongoing, or that's
And
my
as far as the difference between urgent care and an emergency room, how does that affect EMS services in the city?
As of today, we cannot take it, if a patient calls 911 and we have to take them to a hospital, we cannot take them to urgent care. We can't take a patient to Lynn Community Health Center or a urgent care as of today. That might change in January. And I got Rob White here from Atlantic Ambulance. The state is going to allow us to do that, like on a special.
As of today, there's no.
As of today, we could only take you to a hospital.
Okay, so you can't diagnose and say, that sounds like a common cold or anything like that.
Right.
A paramedic and EMT couldn't make that diagnosis. You have to take someone to an emergency room.
Yes, and we can't tell somebody they can't go to the hospital. If somebody wants to go to the hospital, even if we do their vital signs and they're perfectly within range, everything, and they want to go to the hospital, but by law, we have to take them to a hospital.
And now, different parts of the city. I went to Union Hospital yesterday to my doctor, and I looked at different times to each emergency room. Are you always going to Salem emergency room?
Right now, majority of our calls are going there because our crews, at least on the Lynn Fires, and we run the ALS, and Atlantic backs us up with the ALS and runs the BLS. So the ALS has the paramedics. About 80% of our transports are going to Salem Hospital, and that's been ongoing for the past year because the crews are determining that's there's more services there at Salem as Union's trying to wind its way down and closing very soon. So the call is being made on people requesting to go to Salem Hospital instead of Union. So about 80% of our ALS transports for Lynn Fire are going to Salem Hospital.
Do you use any other local emergency rooms? Leahy, Peabody, for example, or
We
Melrose,
can, but
Wakefield?
we can. If there's a maternity, we can also go to the Beverly Hospital on occasion, Melrose, Wakefield. If it's a serious trauma, we'll go to Mass General in Boston. So it depends on the location of the call and where we're at.
Okay. So if you were at Union Hospital, okay, as of November 3rd, if someone in that area had a medical emergency, and Leahy Peabody is the closest emergency room, would you be taking them to Leahy Peabody?
That's the decision of the paramedics or the EMTs. They could do that. Yes, that's a hospital. Yes.
Now, if people are in outer Ward 7 location, Fry Park and outer,
That might be Melrose Wakefield, might be a closer alternative.
as a determination by the attending.
Yeah, how serious the patient is, if the patient's stable, and,
Thank you.
okay.
Counselor Staben.
Thank you. So when ALS transports out of the city, especially to Mass General, and that unit is off the grid for quite a bit of time until it makes its way back into the city, does Cataldo then come in with their ALS unit?
Atlantic has, they have a dedicated backup ALS. So Lynn Fire gets the first ALS if there's a call, and then if we're on a run or busy, then Atlantic will have that. Then if that truck is busy, they have other ALS resources from other communities. They have all the surrounding ambulance contracts of all the communities except for Saugus. So they have a lot of resources in the area, so if the dedicated truck, the P7 truck, they call it, for us, is not available, then they'll go to other resources.
So the cities are always has that ALS protection?
Yes.
Thank you.
Captain Zukas, you're talking, we always have ALS service, but does that mean that the ALS is coming right into the city as soon as we leave the city?
It all depends. They could be coming from a faraway community, it could be coming from Peabody, Marblehead, Swampscott, Salem. It all depends on the time of how many calls are going on. We can't judge that ahead of time, you know. But there'll be the delay if it's coming from out of the city, yes.
Right. There could be a big delay.
Could be.
Counselor Lozey.
Thank you, Councilor Barton. Captain Zukas, so you mentioned that in addition to the ALS and the ALS backup, there is a BLS as well?
Yeah, there's 3 dedicated BLS 24 hours a day, and a lot of times Atlantic far exceeds that. Atlantic Cataldo is the same company, so I mean, we interchangeably use those 2 terms.
Okay,
But
thank you on
they have
that.
3 dedicated BLS 24 hours a day, or its equivalent.
And this isn't directed at you, but this is horrible, what Union Hospital is doing. That actually, if I could I have Councilor Lamanna step to the podium? Thank you, Captain Zukas. Attorney Lamanna, under the state guidelines, my understanding was that Union Hospital had was it a call, the acronym was a DON, Determination of Need, and it had requirements in it that included notification to the community. And when they told us that they would close in the spring of 2020, and then sprung this on us that they're closing earlier, isn't that a violation of a state order?
We'll certainly look into that. You're absolutely correct that there were conditions and stipulations, and this is certainly not the same conditions and stipulations that were originally in place. I do not know if there have been any amendments to that, and our office will make that a priority to determine whether there's any legal action the city can take for a violation. Department of Public Health, they'll take it seriously. I just don't know if there's been any amendments or changes to this plan.
Thank you, Attorney Lamanna. This is horrible. I'm hearing from people that are waiting 5 to 6 hours at an emergency room at Salem Hospital. This is a poor planning by partners to do this. And if there's a way that the city can prevent this from happening at the end here, it seems that unfortunately it's inevitable, but for them to pull the rug out from us on like this, it leaves a very bad taste in everybody's mouth in this community. And it's just a shame that they're doing this. Thank you.
Counselor Fields.
Thank you, Councilor Barton. I think we all share in Councilor Lozey's deep concern about what Partners has done to the city of Lynn. If I could ask Chief Archer a couple of questions, please. Thank you for being here tonight, Chief.
Sure.
Quick question. I know the 2020 budget that you proposed back in June and was approved by the council and the mayor's office. I can't see how this was taken into consideration, you know, not knowing when you were expecting it to be spring of 2020. How is that going to affect the overall budget, being out of town for an extended period of time?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're concerned about it on a number of levels on the, from a public safety level. Obviously, when our truck is out of town, we've now got a longer turnaround time for that medic truck to now get back into the city. And also, you know, people who live up, anywhere up in that Ward 1 area, up in that end of town, they don't have those quick and ready access to a local hospital right there. So from that aspect, it's a concern. Budgetary-wise, obviously, the further away our medic truck is, the longer it takes to get back into service, the fewer people we're going to transport. That has an impact on the budget, too. So, but I mean, the bottom line is, no matter when they spring it on us, no matter when this happens, it's not a good thing for us. It's not a good thing for the city. It's going to have a detrimental effect, you know, whether it was 2019 or 2020. It's not an ideal situation.
And just one more question. I know certainly every part of the city shares the concern, but especially the residents up around Union Hospital.
Sure.
Where within the past 20 years, they've lost not the closing of the fire station.
Sure.
And now an emergency room really right down the street from their home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't imagine what happens to their property values alone, but is there a consideration for bringing any further, you know, opening of the, is there a talk of opening the Linfield Street Fire Station again so we can let the residents know? And how far would you say that the Broadway station is from Union Hospital to serve that area of the city?
The answer to that is too far, is the answer. It's too great a distance. It's not a feeling of comfort for us providing emergency services or for the residents there. It's not a comfortable feeling. So as far as, you know, reopening that station or anything like that, we're always looking at how we need to reallocate our resources if we need to do that to provide services better. We're looking at that all the time. You know, we're concerned about all the development that's going on in the waterfront, and maybe we're going to need some resources, some public safety presence up there. But the same thing with the Ward 1 up there by the hospital. So it's something we're going to take a good hard look at, and this just kind of forces our hand in that direction. Like you say, it was bad enough when we lost the engine up there, but now to lose a hospital in that end of town, there really is no public safety, public service, emergency presence up in that end of town. It's a concern, it's a worry.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilor Staubach.
Thank you, Chairman Barton. Is there somebody here from Atlantic Ambulance?
Sorry, I'm short. Gotta move the mic down.
Rob White.
Atlantic Ambulance.
Thank you. So I asked the question to Captain Zukas about what happens when Lynn ALS takes a patient outside the city, primarily to Boston, and is off the grid for that amount of time. And he said that your company provides backup ALS service, but it may have to come from other communities. Is there a plan, given that vehicle is going to be in Melrose, Wakefield?
No, so-
In Boston, is there a plan to have ALS equipment not just in other cities, but stationed backup equipment in Lynn?
Yeah, so what happens today, because we face this all the time right now, where, you know, Lynn Fire Medic 1's out, Paramedic 7's out, and we have other ALS calls that have to be covered. So we face this all the time right now. Atlantic Ambulance in the service area has 10 paramedic units, anywhere from Lynn to Danvers. And what happens when Paramedic 7 goes on a call, the next truck up would be Paramedic 8 out of Swampscott. They routinely come into Lynn. If Paramedic 8 is tied up, then we move one of the 3 Peabody paramedic trucks over to Browns Pond, and they sit on the pond until Lynn Fire Medic 1 or Medic 7 gets into town. We don't let them sit in quarters until that next call comes in. We always move them to the line so that we have as good a response time as possible.
So Peabody-
Paramedic 7 is permanently assigned to the city of Lynn, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And like Captain Zukas said, they're second up to Medic 1, so
Okay, and that is an ALS unit.
that is an ALS unit.
And Peabody has 3 ALS
They have
units?
3, yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Well,
Councilor Lapierre.
thank you, Chairman Barton. I guess I'm addressing this as a general question, but I'm wondering who the point person would be And if there have been, maybe I'll direct it to Councilor Starbird since it abuts your ward, but have there been any conversations with the city of Salem or around the impact that this is going to, instead of next spring, but in 6 weeks, what this is going to do around Highland Avenue?
No, and I don't think that they're going to stop developing up there, and I don't think that they're going to do anything to ease the traffic that exists up there that, we experience every time, we drive up to Home Depot for something. I think that the situation on Highland Ave is only going to get worse.
I mean, I think it's appropriate to take some action as a council or to, request to the mayor, maybe through our law office, that they just know the sheer impact that's going to be what is 107 once this does take effect. You're talking about, as of November 3rd, increase amount of mitigation, traffic times. I just think we have to be proactive, and if they're not responsive or what they're going to do, because I don't think there's a plan to do much, sounds like, we at least have to be on the offense, stating that we are very concerned with the goings-on here, that what Partners has done, and we've got to take a proactive role in addressing this and copy everybody under the sun about this impact of our Lynn residents trying to get ambulatory services to Salem Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Starbird.
Thank you, Chairman Barton. And I'm just going to throw this out to anyone that's sitting here and anyone who was on the council at the time when this was all coming about. But wasn't there some talk early on about Partners financially supporting Lynn Community Health Center with some sort of emergency type care down there? I mean, especially now where we're seeing, so much development in that area. Now think about folks that are living down there or down on the waterfront, how far they are away from services, and perhaps something a little bit more in depth than just a minute clinic can be put down there. But I thought I remembered hearing something that Partners had offered to work with them early on, but then I never heard anything else about it.
Does anybody remember that? Councilor Lozey.
My recollection was they had millions of dollars that they had to spread out, and I believe the Lynn Community Health was the recipient of some of those monies. How and where it went, I don't recollect.
Anybody? Okay, thank you.
Councilor Knight.
Yes, when Laurie Berry was director there, so I spoke with her. She said that they had worked with the partners, and they promised her that they would give millions of dollars to help them. So, but ever since she left the center, so I have not been able to follow up.
Attorney Lamanna, if you'd come to the mic, please.
Just to add, my understanding was that part of the determination of need, they were required Partners to put money into community health. I do not recall an emergency component. They'd probably oppose that. They want to be the only game in town. So that I don't recall an emergency component.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Fields.
Thank you, Chairman Barton. I just want to acknowledge that Chief McGeary is here as well, and Chief Archer, and a number of members of the Lynn Fire Department, Public Health Director. Michelle Desmaris is here. So I just want to say thank you for coming to this important meeting tonight and acknowledge them. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Motion to adjourn?
Well, can I make a motion to direct a letter? Could I make a motion?
Absolutely.
To have the legal department send a letter to the city of Salem explaining that this has happened earlier than anticipated and that we're concerned about the traffic impact, the mitigation, the closing of our emergency center, and what impact that will be, and to try and work collaboratively with the city going forward to come up with some ideas around the corridor of 107.
Motion been made. Second? Second. Any discussion? Councilor Starbird.
The discussion's not about the motion itself, but one of the issues that exists up there on Highland Ave is when there is heavy rain, that washes out the road in front of Walmart. And so that in itself is a serious concern, getting up that roadway.
Counselor.
Thank you. Because I believe that is a state highway, that we should probably also send a letter to the state Department of
Friendly amendment to the
Transportation,
DOT as well.
so that we can make them aware of the situation, that in the last several years, there's been 5 or 6 times where Highland Ave has been closed off to people coming from Lynn. So if there is an emergency, no one is going to be able to get up Highland Ave during a severe 1-in-100-year rainstorm, which we've had several in the last several years.
Counselor Lapierre, you all right? with
Yeah,
adding
friendly
that as
amendment, that
part of
sounds
the
fine.
motion?
It's the strongest worded letter that our legal department can generate with that, to DOT
Counselor
as
Lozey.
well.
And Chairman Barton, if that, to let DOT clearly know that it's an inferior roadway with flooding problems that could not, that will be a public health hazard, public safety concern.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Counsel Barton?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Chakutis?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Calucci, absent. Counsel Field?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Hogan? Absent. Counsel LaPierre?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Lozey?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Net?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Staben?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counsel Seer?
Yes.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
Second.